And now, from the great state of Mississauga in Ontario, Canada, it's the Ted Woloshyn Podcast. Brought to you by ETP Canada, providing estate administration with ease. ETP Canada. And Tom's Place, for the finest in men's fashion. Tom's Place will suit you. And now, here's Ted.
Thanks so much, and welcome once again to the Ted Woloshyn Podcast IBE, and we appreciate you taking the time to spend some time with us. And if you'd like to check out some of our past podcasts, you can go to www.tedwoloshyn.ca and do so. And leave us your comments and your thoughts as well. This week, my guest is one of Canada's most highly acclaimed comedic talents. He was voted Best Performer by both the Globe and Mail and Montreal Gazette for his work at Montreal's Just for Laughs Festival. He has appeared on The Late Show with David Letterman and The Tonight Show with Jay Leno as well. He was a performer and writer for the Jon Stewart Show. Jon Stewart, not Don Stewart. He doesn't have a show anymore. He is a recipient of a Gemini Award for his work in the celebrated hit show Newsroom, which appeared on CBC and PBS, and currently he is in the middle of his 10th national tour titled Très Misérable.
I don't have a fancy purebred. I just have a mixed breed animal. I didn't get him from a breeder or anything. I rescued my dog from someone's backyard. Beautiful animal. He's a border collie Dotson mix. He's really long because he's part wiener dog. And he's really smart because he's a border collie. So he knows how stupid he looks.
My pleasure to welcome Jeremy Hotz. How are you, Jeremy?
Hi, Ted. How are you?
I'm okay. You're right in the middle of your tour, and Très Misérable, which is a great title for a tour, by the way.
You said it better than anybody who's interviewed me. You have a French accent. You learned it. Look at you, huh? Congratulations to Ted, who said it better than everybody has been going, Très Miserables, and they just wrecked it completely. And they're bilingual, and they're not.
Well, you know why that is, and I thought about that actually. It's just interesting you mentioned that, because Les Miserables played in Toronto for so many years. I mean, I must have heard the commercial for it like 8,000 times. So if it doesn't stick in your head by rote after that, then you got a metal plate in there that's stopping your brain from processing. I'm not sure.
Well, you just admitted you learned French phonetically.
Listen, there's certain things you can't lie about because most of my French teachers are still alive, and God forbid they should hear this podcast and say, "What a liar! What a liar!" I barely got 48. You know? Ah, boy. Now let's speaking of before we start talking about everything that's going on with you right now. Have you ever gone online and looked yourself up on Wikipedia and all these different sources to see who you really are? And
no,
to see how...
because I'm not a fan of Jeremy Hotz.
Yeah. Okay, fine. You're one of the most honest interviews we've done in a long time, because it says you're Canadian Americans, Canadian-American, and born in South Africa. And I'm thinking, okay, well, which one is he? I mean, and to try to figure it out. Okay, and that's the problem. I always ask the publicist when we have guests on, I say, could you send me an up-to-date bio? Because if I go online, I've been corrected so many times over the years, and they said, no, that's not true. I said, well, that's what it says online. I got to figure it's true, but it's not. So
here's my history. I was born in South Africa, in Cape Town. My family moved to Canada when I was 1. I was brought up in Ottawa, and then I moved to the United States. So I am essentially Canadian, mostly. But officially, now that I have my American citizenship as well, I'm an African American.
Okay. So in light of everything that's going on right now between the two nations, being of dual citizenship, you're Canadian and American, so you could actually hate yourself at the same time.
Yeah, which I already do, so it's perfect. It follows brands, Ted. You know what I mean? But the thing about it is, I'm very disappointed. I really am. The level of disappointment on this thing is just, what a pathetic move. What a stupid man. That's all I'm saying. Okay, that's it. That's all I will say. I can't believe it. I'm shocked. It's not going to turn into anything. He's just going to look like an idiot again. What's he going to do now? I've got one passported American, one that's Canadian. What's Trump going to do? Build a wall between them? Come on.
I don't know. I try not to get in. One of the things when I started this podcast 4 years ago, whatever it's been now, is I said, you know what? I'm not going to do anything on politics because there's way too much of that going on talk radio. And it's just all over the place. And it's just, I get a headache just from looking at Twitter.
I get
or Facebook.
nauseous. It makes me sick, like inside. And then you can tell about the whole thing, if it's real or not, just by the more loud the person is and trying to be convincing, the bigger a lie it is.
Okay, that makes sense. Talk about it. It's anxiety provoking, and
Totally.
And for a guy who already deals with anxiety, that's not a good thing. This is when I first heard this, and I heard it a while ago, but I thought, well, this is a fascinating story. You traveled with an emotional support dog.
I do.
Shackelford, right?
That's Shaq. He's my guy. Yeah.
A long-haired Chihuahua who's there to help you because of anxiety issues that you have.
Yes.
Am I correct? Somebody that?
Yes.
And he has his own anxiety issues.
He does.
How does the dog get diagnosed with anxiety?
It's obvious. You can just tell. He runs away from everything. He's terrified. Yes. I have him here. You can see him. Here he is.
Yeah. Put him on screen for sure.
Here he is. This is my emotional support animal. Here he comes. This is him right here, and he travels with us. And
what a cutie.
He's in the rooms and stuff. Hey, buddy. And he's been licking his ass for 20 minutes. That's great.
Very nice.
Here he goes. Okay, let's stay away from Dad's face right now. Anyway, this is my little guy. And as you can see, he's got anxiety as well. You can see his face. He's already worried. And he runs out at the end of the show. And the audience has really taken to this little guy because he's, first of all, tiny. And at the same time, he helps me with my anxiety because here's how this works. I have agoraphobia with it as well, so sometimes I can't leave the house. But if you don't leave the house, he pees all over it. So you got to take the dog out for a walk. That's
good for him.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So that's
he's on stage
everywhere,
on stage with you as you're performing.
He closes the show. He comes running out to get me at the end, or I would go on and on and on and on.
Wow. And from what I read recently, I guess you were performing in Moncton in New Brunswick. And he met up with another emotional support dog.
He did, because they bring them, because you become sort of what you talk about on stage. I talk about the real stuff that's going on in my life. So then you attract people that have similar things or are going through other things that are completely the same or similar, and they bring their service animals to the show. I just say no cats.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I do have a cat, but my door's closed, so I won't let him into the room while this is going on.
I can't bring a service cat to the show because there's too many dogs, and I can't have that fight.
Now, do you have issues when you're out in public and going into restaurants and places where they just won't accept it, even if it's an emotional support animal? Because I understand that by law they have to, do they not?
They do. Actually, Vancouver's the worst. I've been public about this. Yeah, Vancouver is the worst. They try to check your credentials everywhere. Where I live in Los Angeles, you just go service animal and they go, okay, and that's it. But here they want to see your credentials. They want to, which they're not allowed to ask for. You know that, right? They can't.
I didn't.
No, they just do that. But so Canada doesn't do it really as good as the United States does. They care too much about their customers, I think. That's the problem.
And every once in a while you hear about people who try to bring different kinds of animals onto aircraft with them or into restaurants, like you walk in with a parrot or whatever, say, this is my emotional support friend here, a parrot. And you go, it's not going to work.
That's what parrot, maybe, but I was going to get an emotional support animal for Shaq. I was going to get a chicken, but then I thought, I better not do that. They won't let him on Air Canada.
Yeah, not right now. Not with avian flu. You're not going to go anywhere with that.
That's the truth, right? You can't even get an egg anymore, right?
Well, I guess in the States, the price of eggs is like $8 a dozen or whatever. It's not that bad here. Probably the only thing that's cheaper in Canada versus the United States is eggs right now.
Yeah.
Your tour is I mentioned the Today Misérable tour, which continues after this podcast is released February 27th. You're in Ottawa, then you go to Kingston, and then into the middle of March, you kick off a Western tour in Saskatoon, and I'm watching a piece you did at a number of years ago at the Just for Laughs Festival, where you talk about the province of Saskatchewan being these two lines. It's just a rectangle in the middle of this country of ours, right?
I did do that, but I thought they'd hate my guts for that, but they've actually embraced me fully. I think they realize it's right. I'm correct. And they come to see me. So I'm really happy about that. Saskatchewan's not the easiest market to play. So I'm glad that they have me, and I think it's fantastic. And Winnipeg is great too. I'm looking forward to that. That's a big casino thing, I think. Some of them are casinos and some of them are theaters. And I try not to find out ahead of the time because of my anxiety. So I travel with a road manager who kind of just tells me, you're doing this next, you're doing this next. And I really don't look ahead. You know what I mean, Ted? It's not good for me.
Yeah, okay. I understand that. Well, the thing is, I can understand why people wouldn't be upset with you because, you don't come at your material does not come at people with any malice intended. But you're not an angry, pissed off guy who's, crapping on people, right? You're pretty.
No, I don't do that. And yeah, I know what you're talking about. The guy goes to someone sitting up front. Why did you even come to this show? And then he just cuts them down and calls them names and stuff. I don't do that. I try to find funny in the person with the person. They run to the front for me because they want to be part of the show. I'm not mean.
When you were growing up, do you remember who the first person that had a real influence, a comedian, somebody that really made you laugh and you thought, wow, there's something really special about this?
I saw George Carlin at the National Arts Center. My brother took me when I was 12. And he says that I turned to him and I said, when we were leaving, one day I'm going to do that. Wow. I don't remember it, but I did apparently, according to my brother Steve.
What was your would Just for Laughs been the kickoff point for your career? Would that have been the biggest moment?
For fame, that was what broke me. Yeah, that was it. Just for Laughs back in the day when I did it was a big time festival that a lot of agents and managers and television networks went to, and I got deals the first time with CBS and Comedy Central, and then I took the money, and Bud Friedman, who ran the Improv, was also there, and he said, if you move, I will give you work, and I did, and he did. That's what happened.
Explain to people what a development deal means when a network such as CBS or Comedy Central comes to you and says, okay, we have this development deal. Okay. What does it mean? Do you have to come up with something, and you just take the money and run?
Well, I'll tell you the difference. It means that they're really interested in you because they see that you have talent, and they don't want you on the open market because they're deathly afraid that another network's going to get them instead. So they give you a chunk of money to just sit there, shut up, and do nothing. And then they make a decision within a year or so whether or not they're actually going to do anything. That's what it was.
So it's not up to you to come up with a vehicle for yourself. It's up to them. They're just putting you in a holding position so no one else can touch you.
They say the development deal that I had with CBS was to bring them a show at one point during that year. That was it, to create and develop one. And with Comedy Central, it was the same, but it took 3 years. Mm-hmm. They just kept giving it to me and going, that's what happened. So it was good at the beginning, because I didn't even have to do stand-up. They just gave me money for nothing for a while.
If I said to you, if I was running a network right now and said, okay, Jeremy, here you go. You got half an hour a week. What are you going to do? Do you want to do a sitcom? Do you want to do a variety show? Do you want to do introduce to other comedians? What would you use that vehicle for?
I would put it on the internet because nobody watches television anymore. That's what I would do right away. I mean, that's obviously how I wouldn't do a TV show right now. Yeah. They, kids have gone away for no, your shows have been shit for so long. Look what happened. That's what's going on there, TV. Quit lying. Yeah. Okay. Pick it up.
And yet you were part of a network television show, CBC's program, one of the best of all time, I think, The Newsroom, for which you won a Gemini Award.
Yeah, we all did, and Ken Finkelman is a genius and should be, creating shows in Canada every day. It's ridiculous that he's not, and really sad when you have somebody of that talent that thinks outside of the box and makes great television like that. Why wouldn't you use them? What do you want me to say? I mean, wow. I know you don't have a big industry, but you still have an industry. No. Make it effective. What are you doing?
I know, but that's a good point. So, and again, going back to my question, given the opportunity, would you like to create a newsroom type of show? Would you take that half an hour to be a comedic actor, or to be a stand-up comedian, or to be a host, or a combination of things?
If it was television, I would do it. I would do a show, which I tried to bring shows to the Canadian networks with very little success, as you know as well. Canada's the land of no. That's what it should be called. They don't have anything. They don't do anything, and they just grumble about the crap that they're making. I don't understand it. I just don't get it. Everybody goes, TV's so crappy in TV, and then they don't make any new stuff that's any good. I don't get it.
Yeah. When you first started doing comedy, do you recall the first time that you bombed?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was many years ago.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it was. It was.
Yeah, that the eye-opening experience. I remember I'd come off of amateur night at Yuck Yucks, and it'd only been like I didn't have amateur. I did one amateur night, and Breslin was sitting at the back, and he said, "Did you want to do this professionally?" And I killed on that amateur night, and that's why he said that. So I figured, this is going to be really easy. And then he put the next set I had was on a Tuesday night, and I was first. I was the first act, and yeah, I got maybe 5 or 6 laughs, and then I went, "Oh, geez, this is something I'm actually going to have to work at. Damn it!"
Yeah. The reason I ask you that is because I think it's important for people to understand, and no matter what your career happens to be, is that you need to have those, "Oh my God, I was just awful. There's no way I can do this for a living" moments in order to climb that hill inevitably to stardom or to success, whatever that may mean in your world. You got to have that feeling.
I mean, you have to experiment, and if you're killing every time, you're not experimenting. You're just doing the same stuff over and over again, and you're not learning anything, and you're not getting any better. That's the end of that conversation. I challenge half of my set every time. I'll do 70 minutes. I hear half of it for the first time too.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to come up, but I trust it. After doing it for 40 years, I trust that I can come up with stuff right there and then, and off we go. But some nights are better than others. That's just the way it is. When you don't, it's like, walking across a tightrope without a net. That's it.
Well, people have to understand that is true, that there are such things as bad audiences for whatever reason.
You're not allowed to say it, but it is true. Yeah, there's just
it is true. I know it. Listen, I've been in the audience watching performers that I've seen perform before, whether they be musicians or comedians, and think, okay, this guy is still great, but this audience is just not into him at all. Like, they import him from another country or what?
It's funny because those are the audiences that run up to you afterwards and go, "You were great." It's like you never really understand. You never understand what the hell that is. It's just some audiences react differently, and they're still having a great time, but it's just not as loud as the last audience, I guess. Comics like volume, loud, screaming laughter is what they like. And so when they're muffled, they think, this crowd doesn't like me that much, which is not always the truth.
Ted Woloshyn returns in a moment.
I've had the great fortune to say that I've been associated with one of Toronto's finest names in men's clothing for more than 25 years. Tom's Place. Founded by Tom Mahalick's father in 1958, Tom's Place offers brand name men's apparel at unbeatable prices. But more than that, they boast a long-serving, knowledgeable, and friendly staff that can assist you whether you're looking for casual or formal attire. And they have plenty of first-class tailors on site. In addition, Tom and his family are well known for their philanthropic work. So if you're looking to deal with great people who can fulfill your clothing desires at outstanding prices, do yourself a favor and visit Tom's Place. They're open weekdays from 11 to 6, Saturdays 10 to 5, and Sundays noon to 5. You'll find Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Or check them out online at toms-place.com. Tom's Place will suit you.
Now back to Ted Woloshyn.
I don't understand Canada. I don't understand the IGA. I didn't even know it was called IGA till yesterday. I thought it was IGA. I thought it was a French word that meant good luck trying to find any crap in this place. What a weird store IGA is. Makes no sense. Hot dog buns, a bag of 12, $1.39. Hot dog buns with sesame seeds, a bag of 12, $1.39. Same price. You know what that means? Sesame seeds cost absolutely nothing. And somewhere some idiot is farming them. In Saskatchewan.
Are there topics that you try to stay away from because you want to preserve a type of audience, or are you looking for anything goes?
No, I don't cut funny, but I don't think about certain things. They don't even come into my head, so they wouldn't end up in my act anyway. You know what I mean? So I'm asked that question a lot, but if you're asking if I filter the stuff, no, I do not. I feel that, if the audience doesn't laugh at it, it doesn't stay in the show. That's it. I go by laughter.
But you could, is the audience in Saskatoon going to be the same as the audience was in Moncton?
Closer than the audience in Cleveland, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Saskatchewan and it is close. So Canada is different than the United States. I don't do the exact same act in both countries, obviously. I do different stuff in America than I do in Canada. That's just because it's a different country and they're not as, I grew up in Canada. So there's a sort of ingrained thing that all Canadians have and they don't have that. So it's a little difficult. I don't have to tag stuff as much that Canadians get the joke from me right away because they grew up here. Right. I grew up here.
Right. How personal do you get? How much do you open up about yourself?
Open door. What am I hiding? Yeah.
Well, some people, some comedians have an entirely different persona. It's a character like Rodney Dangerfield wasn't really Rodney Dangerfield, right?
He wasn't
a character that he created, right?
He wasn't. Yeah.
And other people like the aforementioned George Carlin, man, here I am. And he might as well just carve him open like he's ready for a bypass. And here, take a look inside of me. I'm giving you everything that I got. This is
different. Me. Yeah. I'm more like that. And he, George opened up comedy to what it is today. I think he's responsible for he's really one of the pillars, if there were faces on stones, he would be one of them, and one of those guys, because he's the godfather of modern comedy, I think, anyway.
Well, he, like yourself, observational comedians. It's you can look at the world, you can look at the same picture that 5 other people, and you'll see things that they don't see. And that's what makes people appreciate your style of humor and Carlin's style of humor when he was around.
You have to look at the world differently a little. There's a thing in my act that I do where I saw a guy running down the street. I don't think the same as you people. I saw a guy running down the street wearing a pair of running shoes, carrying another pair of running shoes. What would you think? And they all go, he stole a pair of running shoes. And I said, that's not what I think. I think, how far does this guy think he's going? That's the difference.
He's going to need a new set of tires by the time he finishes this voyage, is what you're saying. Yeah. Are you a fan of touring? Because people have this misconception that touring is this life of luxury and excitement, but they have no idea that it's like, sometimes, man, it's just a matter of going into a city and you don't even see the city. You're there, you see the venue, you finish the venue, you go to sleep, you have something to eat, you have a couple of drinks. Next day, you're on a bus, you're in a car, you're on a plane, and you're somewhere else. And people say, so what did you think of Ottawa? I go, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't see Ottawa.
Yeah. It's a mad dash, but, the road is traveling is the worst part of it. As you know, getting from one place to the next is the worst because sometimes you got to take Air Canada. So that's never a pleasurable experience. Anything can happen there. And they treat you like you're 2. So they treat you like you're 2 years old. It's horrible. They talk to you like you're a baby, and they come up and they look at Shaq and they go, oh, do you have your special little friend with you today? And I always say, he's a dog, right? Like, what the hell is special little friend? What do you think I am?
Yeah.
What?
I know. Yeah, exactly. It's like you're in Miss Canfield's class in an episode of Leave It to Beaver or whatever.
It's like being in grammar school again. You're absolutely right. It's amazing, And the one that makes me laugh the most is when your seat's like reclined like this much, and then she comes over and goes, could you move your seat forward, please, because we're landing? And then you move it forward and the seat moves that much. It's incredible to me how that would. That doesn't mean anything, lady. Get out of here. Seriously.
Yeah. When you're on the road, you mentioned that you like, with your little friend, you travel with Shaq, and you travel with a road manager. There's just an aspect of loneliness that comes into play that, again, people don't think of, because you're not really, even though you're talking to 1,500 or 25,000 people, whatever it may be, they're not really a part of your life. They are there for an hour and a half, and the rest of the time, it's just you're in this room by yourself or with one other person, and that can start messing with your head, can't it?
No, because before the show, there's a signing I have to do, and then I got to sign the posters for the thing, and then I got to fix the lanyards. There's a whole bunch of junk I got to do. I got to tape my notes to the monitor. There's I got to do the sound check. You see what I mean? So when I get there, they move me around from one thing to the other, and then I would say 20 minutes before the show starts to just sit there and go over stuff in my head, which I usually don't do. They just point when it's time, and I walk on the stage, and my day continues, man. That's the way it is. I'm just on stage, and I'm better on stage than off. I've noticed because of adrenaline. I'd have no anxiety on stage because of adrenaline. But then as soon as the show ends, back it comes.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about your fear of being out in public, that's a major detraction for a guy who wants to be a performer.
Yeah.
But I guess you're right, because it's like facing a fear, I suppose. It's like if you have a fear of heights, they say the best thing you can do is just, go up into a tall building, like ease your way up. But that's the best way to deal with it.
Yeah, no, not in this case, actually. I should face a lot of these problems that I have, but I do try to avoid them because I'm trying to continue with the performing, which it works against a little bit. But it's bizarre that I'm able to do stand-up with this malady. It really is, because you would think that I wouldn't be able to go out there, but because of the adrenaline, I can, and I found that. And this came up after I'd already been doing stand-up. So I thought I was just nervous, but it turned out to be an actual thing. Later, the other comics used to laugh at me before shows because I would get physically sick, like absolutely physically sick. And they go out and be totally normal. And they'd be like, why do you do this to yourself? You kill every single time. And it's like, I'm not doing it to myself. This is what happens, and you can't explain it. If you don't have it, it's not being a little nervous. It's about, you have no idea what you see, what goes through your mind. But then now that I've had it for years, you kind of get used to it and go, okay, that's this, and this is this. You kind of.
But when you're outside of these kinds of social activities, do you socialize much? Like when you're not on tour? I mean, are you the kind of guy who goes and likes to go to parties or hang out with friends?
No, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that ever. I can't go to weddings or funerals or anything like functions like that. I can't do that. I can't. That's one thing that I really have a problem with. I remember for going to a funeral once, and I was just looking at it was an open coffin thing, and I was looking at the dead, and I saw them move. I completely saw them move completely, and it freaked me out. I had to leave. I had to go. I couldn't be there anymore. But the guy was still alive. I didn't know what the hell was going on. Who leaves the coffin open? God, what are you doing? Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
I know. I don't know.
The guy's never even right. He's never the same color or anything. They don't get it right. It's weird. It's weird.
I know. And you don't want to walk away and think to yourself, okay, the last image I have of this friend of mine or his uncle or whatever is this pale-looking, frightening object lying in a box. And
one day that's going to happen to me. Great. You know what I mean? Like, thanks.
Yeah, but you won't be anxious.
No, finally, I won't be. That's right. I'll be at rest.
He's resting peacefully now. No, he's not. He's dead. There's a big difference there.
That's what he is.
When you first started doing the late night circuit, because you did a number of hits with Jay Leno when he was hosting the Tonight Show, and you were on Letterman as well.
Yeah, he was.
I was going to ask you because both of these guys are stand-up comedians, Letterman and Leno. Almost all of the late night talk show hosts are, and they understand what goes on in the mind of a comedian better than somebody who doesn't work in that in that arena. Is it an easier thing or is it a more difficult thing because they do understand the business?
I think that it's better for the comedians because they pick they went through this too. So, and they're talk show hosts. So, that's their job now. So they were where I was and they picked me. So I believe that because there were comedians before, that is that's a nod of approval from somebody who has already gone through and made something of themselves in that business. And now he's doing it in television, another business, and by doing something else. And I always felt that Jay kind of took me under his wing, and because I did the Tonight Show all those times, and it was because of him. He wanted me to do his show, and then he put me on Jay Leno's Garage. I did that too. So,
I wanted to ask you about that experience because I have not seen that episode. I have seen the program, and I think to myself, This is a fascinating hobby. I mean, first of all, you got to be worth like $1 gazillion to delve into that kind of a hobby. But this is not stamp collecting, where you just grab old.
It isn't stamp collecting. Although some stamps cost as much as those cars, as you know, they do. So it's
sure, probably a bad example on my part, an analogy. But what was that like? That whole experience, and what was your role in that?
I was funny, and it wasn't it wasn't a fun. It was about cars, that show, right? But I think he wanted to do a really funny episode because he knew that I knew nothing about cars. So he brought me in, and he goes, nothing. I'm just going to take you to an amusement park, and we're just gonna have fun. And I went, okay, let's do that. And we made up that piece together. That was not written. We just did that, and then he was going to take me on the roller coaster, and then that's the only thing they had. At the end, I was going to go on the roller coaster, and then the rest of it was improvised. But I'll tell you something that he did that was fascinating. He drove me in a really crummy car, right? It starts off with me wanting to drive in one of his like really cool, fast cars, and he takes me in this like coal truck from the early 90s, which broke down. We drove it to the amusement park, and it broke down at the amusement park. And didn't Jay Leno reach into the engine and fix that car in 5 minutes right in front of me? Yes, he did. So it isn't just a hobby. The man can put a car together. Okay? Yeah. If he has to, he can do it. Yes.
Well, I would think that if you're spending that kind of money on cars, you better know something more than, it better be about more than just, this is really aesthetically pleasing to me. This has got to be something that you got to be a gearhead to really get into that.
He is. And when there was an explosion, he burnt himself a bit. I was not surprised when I heard that. The way that I saw him stick his head right in the engine of the coal truck, and then you just hear this clanking coming from the inside, and then he comes out and his face has like oil on it, and then a lady runs up and wipes it off, and he's ready to shoot.
Yeah. Now, working with him and then working with a guy like Jon Stewart, those are different guys, both very funny guys, but what was can you give me an example of the differences between the two of them in terms of
Jon's comedy was more Jay did jokes. Joke. Jon could get you laughing with just the way he reacted, he looked. He was a different kind of comedian, although they're both really funny in their own way. I was really blessed to work on, with both of those guys. But I love doing the Jon Stewart Show because they let me act in the sketches, and I liked that much more than writing. I really did. I liked the performing more than the writing on that show. I really enjoyed doing it.
Yeah. Well, and you've done a lot of performing as an actor. I mean, you've a couple of films that you were in that just off the top of my head. You started with My Favorite Martian with Elizabeth Hurley, and
I did do that movie. Yes, she was really nice to me. She's a lovely lady.
Yeah, and Sandra Bullock in Speed 2.
Yeah, Sandra Bullock, that's right. I did that. Yeah, that was a great movie with Willem Dafoe and stuff. And yeah, he was in that, and so was Jason Patrick. There was a lot of good people in that movie. That was a lot of fun to do. And I was gone for 6 months. They flew me to St. Martin, and then we had to live on the boat for a while, which stunk. I'll never take a cruise ever. I'll never do that. It's not for me. You barf. It goes up and down like this while it's sitting there. You barf, you barf, you barf, you barf. Who wants to sit in something that makes you barf? not me.
Now, where were you at this? Because this is a number of years ago that you did this. Was Shaq a part of your life at the time?
No, he wasn't yet. No, he wasn't here. It wasn't diagnosed yet. It came later. What happened to me was when I was on stage, the way I hold my hand and do this, that I didn't know I was doing that until other people told me, that's just my anxiety. That's my anxiety disorder. That's why I do that. I do that in real life. I'm at the store when I'm shopping. You'll say, no. Yes, I do all that.
So, and why Shackelford? Where did the name come from for your
Shackleton
dog?
comes from the explorer who took the people into the Antarctic, the famous explorer, and then he got lost, and then he turned around and he led them out, and somehow he's a hero. I don't know how that happened, but he is. He got him in trouble in the first place, and then he saved them. Big deal.
Yeah. Thanks for saving my ass because you almost lost it for me.
Yeah, that's what that is. You're to blame in the first place. Come on.
What are your plans after the tour is over? Anything, another special, perhaps?
Yes.
Are you filming on tour, by the way?
I'm shooting a short movie right during this. There's a 7-day period where I have to do that, and in Vancouver. And then after that, I will plan. Look, the tour is not over. I still have to play Toronto, Montreal, Niagara. I still have to do shows, so they're coming later in the year. But while I have this time off, I will just, for a little while, I will just stand there and I won't recover, because that's what you do. You go, you just don't do anything. I don't go on vacations because they just cost money, and all you get out of them is a picture of you standing in front of a different tree. Who cares? I won't go.
You don't have like hobbies or anything? Like you don't golf or you don't do shuffleboard or anything like that?
No, I don't really have any hobbies at all that are legal. But,
okay.
I don't. I'm not a big hobby guy. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I work when I'm not doing stand up. I kind of think I'm trying to work on, jokes and stuff and write shows and stuff. That's what I do. That takes up most of my time, or I watch the Leafs. Still hoping,
Well, okay. Well, that's great. But what do you do after April?
Well, then I changed to baseball. Actually, I do watch sports. That's it. For TV anyway, I will watch sports, but never live anymore because of the commercials. I always don't find out the score, and then I just tape the game, and then I watch it, much quicker.
But you're not going to go down to a game, though, because it's like 40,000 people.
I can't really do stuff like that. You know what I mean? That would be sitting in the crowd of even a show is hard for me. Like, I can't even do that, Like, it makes me, that's a real trigger. You try to avoid the things that set you off, and then you're a much more rounded human being.
It's been a real pleasure chatting with you. I've enjoyed it immensely. You're a lot of fun. I wish you the best. The Today Misérable tour continues, and you can go to Jeremy's website and find out when it comes to a neighborhood near you, or to your neighborhood, or whatever that expression is. Find out where you can go see Jeremy, and keep in touch with him as well, because he's an easygoing guy, as you can tell.
I am. It's a pleasure talking to you, and you have a great day, man.
All the best to you.
Thanks.
There you go. That's going to do it for another week. Thank you all for listening, and we appreciate that. Go to the website, tedwoloshyn.ca, and you can listen to our past episodes as well. Leave some comments or questions. And while you're online, fill out your organ tissue donation card. You could change or even save a life. In the meantime, have a great week.
The Ted Woloshyn podcast has been brought to you by Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. And ETP Canada, providing estate administration with ease. Technical production by Paul Gatt. Music by Bike Thieves. For more on this podcast and our sponsors, and to talk to Ted, go to www.tedwoloshyn.ca.